We're going to show you a few features of what we call our MLS record, which is a smart report. Part of the smart report, of course, gives you the directions that you'll find in the MLS. We've also calculated the distance. So every time you look at a property that's available that you want to show to a buyer, that's far X amount of distance from the subject property, the one they fall in love with, you can just see how far it is. Or you can, again, if you're doing the comps for a listing interview, what we do is we calculate each property, its distance, from the subject. In addition, we know that as an agent, you want to know what features are exactly the same, as you see here in bold, as the subject property. You can either highlight the MLS printout yourself, or you can use these smart records and see what features are identical to the subject property. Then you might say, I want to know what features are different from the subject property. Isn't that what comps are about? What's in common and what's different? Now, because this property says sleeping area and a walkout basement, and they're underlined, we know the subject property doesn't actually have those features. It may be a 4-bedroom with similar rooms and whatever the case. However, what we know is this property has superior features. We've underlined them in this section here. Again, this is the features section right out of the MLS. We've underlined what is superior to this property, and we put in bold what is identical to the subject property. Furthermore, we show what's a non-match. The subject property, we actually take the MLS information. This is a different record than the MLS subject. What we do is we import the subject property's features that are not present in this particular record. For example, the subject does not have a 2-car because we know it says, the subject has a 2-car. We know this one has a 3-car. That's a difference. The amount of baths, tub and separate shower, eating kitchen, these are features that do not vaulted ceilings, etc., built-in bookcases. These are features that do not appear up here. Again, this is not the subject record. This is data imported from the subject that says the subject has fencing. This property doesn't. The subject has built-in bookcases. This one doesn't. Separate tub and shower. This one doesn't. Now, in this price range, they probably both have separate tub and shower, but the agent in this record didn't put it in the MLS. So what we've done for you is prepared every MLS record. We bold the features that are exactly the same, we underline the features that are missing in the subject, and then we actually import the subject to show what it has that this record doesn't. We also look over here. If we see that the baths are the same with the bedrooms, we bold them for you. If you've got features that are the same, we bold them for you. Now again, we know that both houses have gas, etc., but it's incumbent upon both agents to put these things into the MLS. All right, let's go on to another feature that's on the smart record. That's the history report. Now we know, as well as the area of the property, all right, show the location is on the street. But here's what we do in the tax record. We do in the history table. We look in the MLS in this particular city all the way back to 1998. Well, this property sold in the year 2000 for $335,000. They owned it for 70 months, and they resold for $430,000. So they went from 2000 to the year 2005. They went from this price to that price, which is a pretty good gain. They achieved 4.34% every single year they owned it. Pretty good for the metropolitan area. Then they tried to sell it. They tried to sell it in 2009. 42.7 months later, they attempted just barely over 1% growth, so just under 1% growth rate per year. But they failed. It was an expired listing. They went from 430 just to 440 after owning it for all those years. They couldn't make a penny on it. They listed with another company, dropped the price to $399.5, Remember, they paid $430. They tried $440, switched to another firm at $400 essentially. After owning this thing for 77 months, they attempted negative 1.13, and they still didn't sell the property. This history table is very important because normally we're looking at just an expired sale price without having all this history. Or imagine if they sold for $399, we can see that they tried, they failed, and how long they've owned it. Very helpful. And again, you get this on every single record to see what the full history was back as far as the MLS goes. You get to see the months owned. You get to see attempted rates of return or achieved rates. You can see the price per square foot. They paid $89 the first time. They paid $115. They attempted $117. They attempted $106. Failed. You can see the days in the market. The first time it sold in the year 2000. Imagine all these days in the market were like 11, 9, 6, and 3. These were all sold prices. If you knew that, you probably are going to see some really positive appreciation. You're looking at fast sales over long periods of time. That's not what happened here. This is really incredible to see all these other records, to see what the track record, what's going on with those records. Lastly, we know this property attempted 1.43% gain from its original purchase price to June of 2012, 1.43, and they failed. They'll tell us what sometimes the seller cannot do. This match was purchased 10 months after the subject property. The subject was purchased in 1999, so this was 10 months later. And they actually paid $25,000, $530 more than the subject property. And they were unable to sell, even asking $399,500. So you'll get used to, a lot of agents are not used to looking at this type of data. Remember, Bryan Comps, which this property is, was bought around the same radius for about the same, in the same time, for about the same dollar amount. We just followed it in the economy to see how it did. This is so powerful to help you show sellers what they cannot do. Again, this is part of the Price of the American Dream presentation. You'll see when we get to those pages, there's a sequence in order to present this. If you follow the order, what's happening is we're addressing the seller's emotional anchors that they have. Their anchors are, I'm never going to price it down that low. I paid more for it than that, and doggone it, I put insulation in the attic, and I painted the garage floor, and I want my money back out of the property. Well, we can show the seller that even though other people did similar capital improvements, bought their property around the same date, around the same time, for about the same dollar amount, they still were getting this kind of rate of return and this kind of shift in price per square foot. Lastly, you're going to be able to show a seller more photographs than the basic 5 or 6 of the first photographs. What this page does, page 2, we'll go into extra photographs. You can print this off and take this with you on listing interviews or showing the buyer extra photos. We put about 6 of them on the first page, and we've done these extra ones so when you're on a listing interview or getting with the buyer, you can show them a lot more photographs. All right? Alrighty, that is the smart record.